Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the April 18th Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present except for Mr. Ziegler, who is excused tonight. We do have, under ceremonies, announcement, appointments, we do have a couple of announcements. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Post Falls for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. Great job to Jason and his department for earning this award year after year. Was it actually 2021 or would it have been 2022 at this point? They're a little slow in repeating. No, they're a little bit slow?
Yes.
Okay. And also, Jason Faulkner is celebrating his 10-year anniversary with the City of Post Falls. We're lucky to have Jason leading our finance department, and it seems like it's been a lot longer than no, I'm just kidding, Jett. And just so you know, we are publicly recognizing you, and that's in lieu of a raise. So thank you very much, and congratulations for spending 10 years with us. We do have a presentation tonight, and it's from Kootenai County Public Transportation, CityLink.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on Kootenai County Public Transportation's services. My name is Chad Engel. I serve as the program manager for the Resource Management Office. As the program manager, I oversee and manage fixed route paratransit and the Ring of Rides programs. I also oversee, design, and develop and implement Kootenai County's Integrated Mobility Innovation Regional Platform, which is currently in beta testing phase. And I also oversee the cost allocation model, which is used to determine the full cost breakdown for delivering transportation services. Presenting with me today is going to be Chris Yate, a Senior GIS Analyst with JUB Engineering, and Olivia Metz with the Metz Group. Chris and Olivia have been contracted by Kootenai County Public Transportation to develop our strategic service plan. Kootenai County is growing and changing, and public transportation must evolve as well. Kootenai County Public Transportation Strategic Service Plan lays out how the area's public transportation system should develop. It sets goals, objectives, and strategies for attaining an efficient and effective mobility system. So Chris is going to come up here, and he's going to go a little further detail into our strategic service plan.
Thank you. So, as part of the strategic plan, we wanted to look at the transit orientation of the county. And basically what that is, transit orientation is the mix of physical and social elements that are correlated with transit ridership, because we want to make the most efficient use of the existing system. So as part of that, we developed a composite score, which you'll see the maps in just a moment, that we wanted to make sure that we're hitting all the key transit markets with the existing system, as well as in the future where future service might be extended. So here's the map of the region, and that is the existing system as it stands now with the three lines. Around those are quarter-mile walk sheds, and those are highlighted because that's generally how far people will walk to access bus service. So here's our existing population as a kind of a heat map across the county. You see that, you know, for the most part, the existing walk sheds are hitting the key population centers. That said, as we know, residential tends to be offset from primary streets because people live in neighborhoods. And so that's partly why some of that density is outside those walksheds. Here's future population. Here you definitely see the prairie start to fill in and develop. So this is trying to get ahead of where that future service might be aligned. Employment, that's a different story. Employment wants to be on the major corridors. So you arguably couldn't draw a better existing system. It's hitting all the key employment centers, both in Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls. So Riverbend being the one exception here, you see employment in 2040. As part of the plan, we talked about, what's the possibility of extending service out there to access those jobs. Mixed use, this is retail and services that people use the bus, whether it be Walmart, drugstores, health services. Again, these all tend to be on those major corridors, so the existing system really does align with where those are located. This is mixed use in the future. So again, that's just, it kind of concentrates in those existing centers. Pedestrian scale blocks, people are more likely to walk to transit if it's a walkable environment with smaller blocks rather than large super blocks. Here you see the historic core of Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, to the north Rathdrum. Those all pop because those were built with that tighter block structure. So socioeconomics definitely play into ridership. Here's the location of low-income households beneath the poverty line. So again, the system is definitely providing service to those areas. We also added low vehicle ownership because it's not only lower income folks, but a lot of people have fewer cars by choice, or they might be seniors that don't have access to a vehicle. So again, the existing system hits most of those areas. So the real magic comes when you put all those together. This is the composite of all those different elements. So with the exception of, Rathdrum definitely sticks out to the north. And again, we talked about what future service might look like to go there. But for the most part, you couldn't really draw a much better system using the existing road network. So it's really tapping into those existing transit markets. In the future, this is where you start to look to, as resources allow, where might future corridors be extended to? And again, the prairie starts to pop as well as Rathdrum, Riverbend to the west. Focusing in on Post Falls, this is a really great tool to look close in at particular areas. So that's that composite score superimposed. And you see most of those hotspots are within a quarter-mile walk of bus service. And that's just kind of a mask thrown over that. And you can see some of that blue on the periphery. But again, they're not too far from transit, and so maybe some small tweaks to the line might be able to provide better access. With that, I will kick it to Olivia.
Hello, thank you. CityLink really allows access for independent living, and as you can see with some of the testimonials that we have received from specifically some Post Falls residents, independent living is really kind of increasing with our demographics as well. Whether it be elderly that have access to health care, as well as people with disabilities. Many healthcare agencies around the area really rely on CityLink for their patients, and so it's a huge, huge asset for these healthcare agencies. And then also, CityLink creates access to education and jobs. And as part of the some federal funding, CityLink is required to have access to education and jobs. So. CityLink also creates access to community services. It's very important for CityLink users and riders to have access to, whether it be a grocery store, healthcare, laundry services. If none of you have ridden the CityLink bus service, I really do encourage it. I did it at the beginning of this project, and it was actually really eye-opening to see all of the walks of life of people that, and actually I went through the Post Falls loop. And so there were single moms going to do laundry. There was elderly gentlemen going to Walmart. There were kids going to the skate park downtown from Post Falls to downtown Coeur d'Alene. So it's a really access to the community is really huge for what CityLink provides. So throughout this planning process, we really focused on our partnerships with the municipalities around Kootenai County, and really emphasized the with KMPO as well. But we really wanted to bring in each city and as with the planning department's input, and to really illustrate. So a lot of the data that Chris had provided, we vetted with all of our city partners and make sure that we were on target for those 2040 numbers. What developments are occurring? How can we work with each other to plan for future stops with all of the development that's occurring around the county? So with that, we have really honed in on the data aspect and performance metrics. But we're really continuing partnering for the implementation of the strategy and really educating not only public but also employers. We're starting engaging more larger employers to make sure that they know that there are access to public transportation. Jobs Plus, for example, does receive many phone calls from larger employers or even employers that are coming to the area to see whether or not there are public transportation access points to certain locations. But all of this is backed by new technology that is being used to innovate. And I'm going to have Chad come back up to wrap it up, because I know we have a short period of time.
All right, so our regional mobility platform, we've been working on that for a while now, but it will enable riders to create a tailor-made mobility solution by selecting desired transportation mode, costs, accommodations, as well as they're able to choose their desired mobility option as well. So the rider can choose to combine available options to suit their needs, then they can book and pay all in one place, and that's the major premise for that. The regional mobility platform is designed to be accessible and intuitive for all individuals. So anybody, like Olivia mentioned, any seniors, anybody with disabilities. So we've been working with all those groups to really tailor it to all individuals. And with that, we look forward to any questions or feedback that you may have.
On the mobility app,
Yes.
you say that has been or has not yet been implemented?
It has not. It's in beta testing currently.
Okay, because we talked about that pretty extensively at the last presentation you made. When do you anticipate that that might come forward?
We are looking to put that forth as soon as we possibly can. We have passengers who are testing it right now.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that what's going to happen is FTA is sending a group of individuals who will come through it's the independent evaluation team, and they will be coming at the end of July, beginning of August, to evaluate the plan and evaluate everything that we put forth in that. So once we get the evaluation on that, then that's when we'll be able to fully implement.
Any other questions?
I have one. Refresh my memory. Didn't CityLink at one point go to Riverbend?
Yes, many years ago they did, but due to costs, and there was a 2-hour headway when it did go out there. So we had to then shorten it and reroute to the current routes that you see now.
Yeah, I know Olivia mentioned the access to education and jobs. That being, any plans in the near future we've got workforce training out there and all that. That's an education
Yep.
quarter too, you buy.
You bet.
But is there any plans for that?
So right now, we're going through the strategic service plan with the Mets group. And then once we get that, we're going to then go into a network redesign. And so we're going to evaluate everything and see where and how we can get to new places in those corridors like you speak of for education and that purposes. So that's still the process that we're working through. We don't have a timeline as far as that yet. And then obviously it comes down to the funding availability as well. So
Yeah, I knew that it had been at one point
yes.
out at Riverbend.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next on the, or actually, are there any amendments to the agenda
We
tonight?
have none tonight, sir.
Are there any declarations of conflict? Would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the April 4th, 2023 City Council meeting. Item B is payables March 28th through April 10th, 2023. Item C is various fixed asset disposals. Item D is disposal of computer equipment. And item E is Ashler Ranch Master Development Agreement File Number SUBD-0004-2022.
I have a question.
Sure.
On the asset disposal, and they're all legitimate. I mean, how do we get such a huge number? Was it just an oversight? I mean, it looked like things have been depreciated out. Was it just a cleanup that we were doing?
It was a cleanup that they went through during the audit.
Okay.
And so there were items that they were discovered had been disposed of and had a hard time finding where they were in the disposal process. And so some of them you saw they'd actually come before council before, or they had gone to auction and they couldn't find the paperwork where they had been approved by council to go to auction,
Okay.
things like that.
It was just sheer number of pages maybe.
There was a lot,
Yeah,
yes,
a lot
I
of
agree.
questions.
We
And then-
we went back and made Victoria do extra research before we brought it forward.
Okay, I
And I
appreciate
know
that.
IT said that they got tired of hearing from her, but.
It was a bit
kinda-
unusual.
It was a
Yeah.
long list, yes.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'd move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
Motion second. Any discussions? Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Tonight, we have no public hearings. Next item is unfinished business, returning ordinances, and we have two action items. First is the purchase of 6.6 acres of land.
Mayor, Council, Dave Fair, Park and Rec Director. Tonight I'm here to request the purchase of 6.6 acres of land at the Montrose subdivision. This is a portion of land that will be an extension of land that's going to be dedicated to the city. With it, this has been a long-term project. I'm kind of surprised it's finally coming together. It started in 2015 and we're now at that point, but this purchase will allow for 2 additional softball fields. Give a little history, back in 2015, it kind of sat dormant for about 2 years. 2017, the developers representative met with the Park and Rec Commission several times with staff, finding out what the commission wanted to see and how we wanted to expand it and how it fit into the plans. From there, things just kind of went along. We had it all agreed on, and then COVID hit. So in addition to that, the size became larger, the land became more expensive. So with Robbie's hard work, he was able to, and the developer's landscape architect, they're able to reduce and really tighten up the footprint. So even though the purchase price is $1.5 million, through his work, they're able to shave off over $500,000. So we felt pretty good about it. We did come to an agreement several years ago, but we had to get the alignment of the road. Developer will begin construction documents this winter. and hopefully construction of 2 fields and parking lot next year.
Dave, who will be paying for the construction of those fields?
That's the developer.
Okay, thank you.
The rest of it is for future growth, and that would be on our end. But infrastructure, parking lots, those are the expensive parts. It's kind of hard to see here, but right in this upper part, this is what we're talking about. It caps it, Empire Way being on the side, Celtice on the bottom, and then you can see the layout and design. So it's been back and forth for quite a while, but I'm just happy to be standing forward here, asking you for your blessing and approval of the purchase of the land. And it will be covered through impact fees and ARPA funds.
It's been a long time coming. It'd be nice to put this to bed and get it done.
Yeah, I'd like to say I had dark hair then, but I think it was gray then too.
Any questions, Dave? Entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve the purchase of 6.6 acres of land at Montrose by the Parks Division.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? A roll call, please.
Walker.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Dave. Next item up is the purchase of 489 South Corbin Road by the Parks Department.
Still Dave Fair, Park and Rec Director.
Shoot.
Yeah, I know.
Once more.
He does have multiple personalities.
I wish I could argue against that, but no. Well, the last one took a long time. This one went really quick, as you're aware. This is 2.6 acres, another extension to parkland. We're looking at how we can incorporate a dog park with it, expand the ball field there. The purchase price that we were able to negotiate down to was $625,000. That includes the house, 2 outbuildings. We also put in there having the ability for the owner to live in the building or the house up to 6 months. They are presently negotiating for a house. The last one, they didn't move quick enough, but this one I think is working. So they may be out sooner, but we gave them that amount of time. This one will be paid for entirely with impact fees. And that just gives you an idea of the shape. This is the existing Corbin Park above the canal, and this is what we'd be purchasing, this stuff in red.
Dave, is there the opportunity, so these people vacate the house and the city doesn't move forth with the development of that park immediately, is there the opportunity to rent that house?
We plan to. We're renting the other one to the south of that piece of property I
Okay.
kind of outlined. So, yes.
When would you anticipate that, assuming it is a dog park, when would you estimate that might be started?
We'll have Robbie work on designs, but most likely, looking at our current schedule, we're looking at next spring.
Okay, that quick, okay.
So I am asking for council's blessing on this one, too.
It's certainly a unique opportunity to get 2.6 acres that's immediately adjacent to a current park. And for 2.6 acres and a house in the middle of town, I think the price is reasonable. So with that, I would move to approve the purchase of 489 South Corbin Road by the Parks Division.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Thorson.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes, thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
You done?
I'm done.
Next item up is new business, and we have 4 items. First would be the Transportation Master Plan update. Mr. Paulus.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. Tonight, engineering staff is asking for your consideration and an approval for city to enter into a professional services agreement with JUB Engineers to update our transportation master plan. This will guide our transportation network for the next 20 years, identifying needs and projects. If we go back in time, 2014 was the last time we collected data to update our current master plan. Back then, we had a population of around 35,000 people. We were projecting that by 2020, we would hit a little over 42,000 in population, and that by 2035, we'd be a little around 91,000 in population. Today, we stand at 46,000 people in population. By 2045, we're still anticipating that we'll be getting up close to 100,000 in population. So the question becomes, how do we handle those people as we move forward into the future? Back in 2014, we were anticipating a lot of growth happening in the area in red up along the Highway 41 corridor between now and 2035, with additional growth north of Prairie Avenue. Were our assumptions back in 2014 correct? Back in 2014, we anticipated Highway 41 would be widened, but we didn't know when, and we did not make that as a project that had a guaranteed date to it. Nor did we have the knowledge that ITD would be updating and widening I-90, which we're now anticipating in the near future. With our current population of 46,000 people, we have over 234 centerline road miles in Post Falls. Out of that, we have 17 miles of minor collector roadways, which handle between 1,000 to 5,000 vehicles per day on them. We have another 17 miles of minor collector roadways, which can handle up to about 12,000 vehicles per day. All of those roads take traffic from the residential areas and then feed it to minor arterials, which make up another 23 miles of our roadway network. These in turn handle up to 20,000 vehicles per day and then feed into the regional roadways of State Highway 41, State Highway 53, I-90, and our principal arterial roadways of Prairie Avenue and Celtice Way. If in 2014 we made the decision we're not going to make any more improvements to our system as far as traffic signals and roundabouts, our system may not be operating as well as it is today. Today, our system utilizes 10 roundabouts to help move traffic. In addition to that, we have 20 traffic signals, and that doesn't account for another 19 traffic signals which are owned and operated by the Idaho Transportation Department and are located within the city of Post Falls. So if we hadn't made any improvements over the last 8 years, and we continued growing to the year 2035, our system would look like this. To a traffic engineer, this map means a little bit more. Every red circle means an intersection that is failing. It's not handling the traffic that it needs to. People are sitting through numerous traffic lights, or they're backing up a quarter, half mile at a stop sign waiting to get through and wasting a lot of time over the course of their day. Sections of roadway that are shown in red or orange are similar. There's not much capacity left on those roadways. With a transportation master plan, we identify a number of projects to try to mitigate this in the most cost-effective way possible. Our current transportation master plan has over 121 projects on it. The combined value of those projects are over $270 million, of which impact fees account for $85 million towards those projects. These are some of the multimodal projects that we identified. We also identified, and this is a map just showing the projects that were needed by the year 2020. We have similar maps for the year 2025 and then 2035, what needs to be put into place. If we build most of those projects that we've identified, and if we made the right choices back in 2014, by 2035, all those red dots kind of disappear. Mostly we have green dots and a few little yellow spots, which are areas of concern, but not major concerns. We do have a couple that we are currently projecting problems at 7th Avenue and Spokane Street and out at Highway 41 in Mullen. I can tell you that the 2014 model is probably wrong now because the Highway 41 improvements, especially the I-90-41 interchange, will mitigate that issue at Mullen Avenue. The problem over at 7th Avenue and Spokane Street, it looks like that may probably be mitigated depending upon what options we move forward with ITD on the I-90 widening project. So we get into our transportation master plan update. It helps us identify projects, but it also helps us identify what do those roads need to look like in order to move the traffic that needs to move. Does it need to be a residential street, or does it need to be a collector? How many lanes does it need to be? Should we have parking on those roadways? Should it have bicycle lanes? These things are important because the decisions we make on that help us prevent overbuilding a roadway, which means additional costs to the citizens to maintain, or the opposite of building too small of a roadway, causing congestion and causing safety issues. So what we're proposing is to move forward with the transportation master plan update. This is actually going to be a combination of 3 separate projects from our street impact fees. The first is the transportation master plan update, but we're also going to combine with it our traffic count and signal timing update. That will go through, and with the data we collect for the transportation master plan, we will update the timing of every one of our traffic signals in town. This can have a huge benefit to the citizens. If you take a traffic signal that has approximately 20,000 people per day, and if you can reduce the average delay per driver by about 10 seconds, that can equate to, I can't remember that number.
Oh.
I did that calculation and it was 55 hours of
Wow.
delay a day saved to the general public. Add that up over the course of the year and 19 traffic signals. It's not saving money for the taxpayers as far as how much they pay to the government, but is saving them time and fuel. We'll also add to that the Celtice Way Focus Corridor Phase 1. That project was going to look at the Celtice and Mullen area and how to best handle traffic. By moving that project into the master plan, we're going to be able to do a more thorough analysis of some of the potential impacts of the different options that ITD is looking at with I-90 widening through the city of Post Falls, anticipated more in the 2030, 2035 range. And it'll also allow us to take a look at that area and see how can we set that area up to work better with the uses in that area, the commercial uses, and making it maybe more of a downtown area, moving traffic through smoothly and serving business. The estimated time frame for this project is 18 to 24 months. We anticipate 18 months, but we built in a 6-month additional time frame in there to help with some of the variables with dealing with ITD and what's going on with the I-90 corridor planning. It'll involve public presentations. We're going to involve the public in open houses to get an idea from them. What do they think of our existing transportation system? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What do we need to do better? We'll also provide a plan to them so that they can come back to us and say, hey, did you consider this? Or I don't like that project because it's going to impact X, Y, or Z. We're going to have outreach to stakeholders, rail companies, the school district, major businesses in the community, and get their feel for the transportation network. We'll also have workshops with Planning and Zoning Commission and you. We'll also set up a technical advisory group, probably sat on with members from ITD, Post Falls Highway District, Kootenai Metropolitan Planning Organization, to bring some outside feel to help keep us from having blinders on. We'll also be able to update and include the KMPO 2045 Master Transportation Plan update, which they are currently finishing. So we have good timing on that. KMPO also recently updated their origin and destination plan. What that does is it looks at where traffic tends to want to start, where do they want to go, and it helps guide the model in best reflecting the current trends of how drivers react with the system that we have. The previous data for that was from back in 2005. We'll tie into the ITD Highway 41 improvements. That's not currently in our model, but now it'll be in there as a backbone, and we'll see how effective that is in helping traffic in our area and helping us hopefully reduce the cost of some of the projects that we were planning but maybe no longer need to do. Again, I already mentioned the I-90 widening and looking more closely at that and tying into that. We'll also take whatever is the current information and work with ITD as to what they're looking at with the US 95 alternative study, formerly known as the Hutter bypass. Again, the cost of this is estimated at $718,000, or $718,600. Out of that, there's $48,900 in a management reserve fund, which includes an extra 6 months. That gives us a little bit of flexibility again. $718,600 is actually a fairly small cost when you're looking at trying to manage $85 million of impact fee dollars and over a couple $100 million of transportation projects overall in the city. Our final product, they'll first review our current conditions. Where did we look at things correctly? Where are we a little bit off target, and how do we need to adjust from that? We're going to update our capital improvement plan and identify projects for the next 5, 10, and 20 years. We're going to take a look at the Hutter bypass and take a look at how does our system work with and how does our system work without, so we have a little bit of flexibility and know where we can be, where projects may overlap and work for both. Those are really safe areas for us to know what to do with, and then know where we may have some concerns depending upon what happens with the bypass. And we'll do the same thing with the I-90 Post Falls access. Look at that a little bit more thoroughly as to how it impacts the city of Post Falls and the citizens with our roadway network. The final product will improve our GIS tools, allowing a larger number of our staff to be able to see what is going on and provide better guidance to you, the policymakers, as to how annexations and subdivisions impact our road network and make sure we're putting the right product and right projects out there. We're going to update our traffic signal timing, which I already mentioned. We're going to update our city truck routes plan, which currently 2004 was the last time that was updated. We're going to update our multimodal priorities, look at gaps in our system, and tie into the Safe Route to Schools program to make sure that we're providing the best resources we can in those areas around the schools and also around our parks. Maybe we're going to take a look at the rapid flashing beacons and prioritize some locations where more of those can go. We also have in the plan an alternative analysis to look more closely at the Celty-Smullen corridor and to also look at the 3rd Avenue and 4th Avenue corridors in more detail. And then we will go in and update our functional roadway classifications and update our road cross sections to see if there's areas where we either need to expand the roadways a little bit or reduce them depending upon what the needs are and how the system is working. So again, city staff asks for your approval of the Transportation Master Plan update at $718,600. I stand for any questions you might have.
Rob, where will the funding come from?
Monies for this would come from the streets impact fees.
Okay. Other questions?
Mr. Mayor, if I might add, I had mentioned that we're really rolling 3 projects into one. If you went into the impact fee list and looked at those 3 projects, combined they're about $900,000. So we are seeing some projected cost savings in having these 3 projects done as one by about $200,000.
Well, you know, one of the biggest concerns we hear anytime we look at an annexation or a zone change or development of any kind is traffic. And, you know, we hear time and again, people feel that the city has not done a proper analysis of the traffic impact. And the city transportation master plan provides the information that we need to look at these projects and the background information, and it's not just numbers drawn up in a corner room somewhere. It's a extremely thorough study done by professionals. So it's been almost 10 years since the last one was done, 9 years right now, and so it'll be 10 years by the time it's done. It's a lot of money, but in my opinion, with the growth we have experienced and will continue to experience, I think it's probably a good expenditure of funds and a good project to allow us to be able to address growth in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Our crystal ball is only so clear, and so once every 10 years is probably a minimum to take another look, because as well as our prognostications are, it's never perfect. So,
Yeah.
Perfect example, like you said, is the projects outside beyond our control, Highway 41, I-90, et cetera.
Our goal within the impact fees that we do have, we've got scheduled in there master plan updates. The view on that is every 5 years to touch and tweak the master plan at a much lower cost, and then every 10 years it's the more thorough analysis. So we're at that 10-year mark with doing the data collection this year and then having a final product to you right around 2025.
Okay.
An observation, I think that we've done a pretty good job of crystal balling it. Truly, you say you don't have a crystal ball, but, where you're just, through the years, trying to imagine the unimaginable, which is the population that we have now. So, glad your job isn't bigger.
Thank you.
Council will entertain a motion.
I would move to authorize the city to proceed with the transportation master plan update.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Shows,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks. Thanks, Rob. Next item, contract with Jett Concrete to replace the fleet shop concrete floor. Ross.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. Ross Junkin, Public Works Maintenance Manager, here to discuss our fleet shop floor. That's it right there. That's basically what most of the floor looks like in the main high bay hangars of the fleet shop. If you recall last year about this time, you approved purchase of new lifts, vehicle lifts. And at the time, I mentioned that we would be looking to replace this floor because we can't put the lifts on that section of floor without replacing the floor. However, we ran up against time and weather at the end of last year, and we decided to make sure that our vehicles were being serviced through the winter so we could get our plows on the road quickly. So we pushed it off for winter operations. So I'm back here at this point to request funds to replace that floor. We solicited quotes from 5 contractors, received 2 back. Quite a disparity in cost. However, we were expecting about $120,000, and the Jett Concrete came in significantly less. So we're pretty comfortable in discussing with them their approach and to the project and what it would take, and comfortable with them moving forward. This is not part of this request, but I wanted to mention that the existing 4-post lift that our inspector who came out to inspect it over a year ago basically told us that this thing's a safety hazard. It shouldn't be used. We need to get it out of here. So I will be coming back with a surplus for that, and my intent is to just recycle that. It's quite large, so manhandling it out of the fleet shop will be kind of difficult. So we talked about just cutting it up and then sending it out. So that'll come in a future request. Recommendation is to award the contract to Jett Concrete Incorporated at a cost of $79,310, adding in a 10% contingency for the total amount of $87,241.
Question, Ross. With such a large discrepancy in the 2 bids, are you comfortable with Jett?
I am. We've worked with them on some of the other stuff that we've,
Okay.
when we replaced ADA concrete ramps, the ADA ramps. We worked with them in the past, and they've been
Good.
really good to work with.
Good. Any other questions?
Crazy difference.
How much service are we planning on getting out of this floor? Because eventually we're going to move the fleet shop elsewhere.
Correct.
I just can't remember the timeline on that.
Crystal ball. Wow. I wish I had one, but we're expecting at least 10 years
Okay.
on this. So otherwise, we can't do any work.
Right.
Least out of that. So we're kind of stuck right now. And the other thing with this is it's very time sensitive. We need to get it done quickly because every day that the shop is down is a day that we can't repair our fleet. And we have to send, if it's an urgent repair, it has to be sent out to a shop outside of our shop, and there's a higher expense to that.
Along those lines, what's your estimated time for completion?
The Contractor's telling me 2 weeks.
Jeez.
So, we're gonna hold them to that. So that's actually written into the contract. I think it's 3 weeks in the contract.
Okay.
Just to give a little bit of leeway, but
Good.
In that case, I would have moved to approve the contract with Jett Concrete to replace the fleet shop concrete floor.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks. Thanks, Ross. Next item up is contract for drilling an irrigation well for the Tullamore Sports Complex. And Robbie, I think it was very rude for them to make you hobble up there.
I know.
It's that close.
Speaking of from one guy that on crutches to another.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of council, Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner. Here seeking council's approval for the contract to drill an irrigation well at our Tullamore Sports Complex. So a couple reasons that we're wanting to do this. The first one being the cap fees associated with hooking into the Ross Point Water District. Along with their meter fees, we're going to be north of about $280,000. Additionally, just using their water would be estimated about $12,000 a year. And then lastly, we'd have greater water control. Ross Point doesn't have the most, water pressure out of some of the systems in our city, so it can be a challenge, especially with our Tullamore Park side of getting the water we need when we need it. And so having our own well allows us to control that. And so this last year, we applied for and received our water right from the Idaho Department of Water Resources, basically allowing us to do this. And we did discuss it with Ross Point. They were happy to let us basically drill our own well instead of tying into their system, I think, partly because of the draw that this site would have put on their system. And so we did receive that water right last year. So we using the informal bid process, we requested bids from 4 contractors. At the time, they all declined to bid it for various reasons. This was again last fall. So then we had our consultant kind of negotiate with one of them, as to why they didn't want to do it. A lot of it came down to timing. They were all backed up last fall, but able to kind of fit it in this year. So as a result, again, we contracted with, or negotiated with Big Sky ID Incorporated. And so our engineer, TO, as well as city staff recommend the award of this contract to Big Sky for $199,729. And this would be paid for out of the park impact fees.
Just the cost, the cost compared to the cap fee is the savings.
Yes.
So that's.
There is, additional costs with
Sure.
the pump that we're gonna have
Right.
to buy, but we're still gonna be under that 280,000.
Was there an engineer's estimate on this project?
They were about 180, so it did come in a little bit higher. But we did have another contractor who never formally submitted. They were thinking about 250, so we feel pretty comfortable with that number given the cost, especially if the steel casing
Right.
is substantial at a 12-inch well.
Any questions?
Stupid question, but this is only showing the baseball fields. Is this going to cover the soccer fields? as
Yeah,
well?
I was just clipping the image
Okay.
for this presentation, but it'll serve the whole site. We will still tie into Ross Point for domestic, just because we already have the connections out there, so our restrooms, water drinking fountains will still be on Ross Point's system, but this will be strictly for irrigation.
Jay?
I would move to approve the contract for drilling an irrigation well for the Tullamore Sports Complex.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Thanks, Robbie. And next up is the purchase of a replacement asphalt paver.
I'm back. Ross Junkin, Maintenance Manager for Public Works. Here to request authorization to purchase a replacement paver for the Streets Department. So our existing paver is over 10 years old. Excuse me. And we've had significant issues with it. We've had to send them out to the dealership to have it worked on, and they couldn't quite get it. They kind of got it working a little bit better, but they weren't able to get it completely resolved, some of the issues with it. And then at the end of that, this was last year, at the end of that, they basically told us, hey, don't bring it back. We're not going to work on it again. We can't get parts for it, and they're just not going to service it anymore. So that was a bit frustrating. And like I said, they can't get parts, so we can't get parts to work on it either. We did request replacement funds for the budget, and then they are in the budget to replace it. We did go through Sourcewell to identify a paver that could work. Budgeting wise, when we first started looking at this, we were expecting to be upwards of $270,000, but we did identify one at $219 that was basically the same size as the one that we have. Last year we did in-house with our crews, we did about 1.25 miles of paving. We expect to increase that this year, about a half a mile. That's what our goal is. So at that, we're requesting replacement to spend the money budgeted on a replacement paver. Any questions?
Questions?
Gotta have it.
Yep.
I move to approve the purchase of the replacement asphalt paver as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Ross. Next item up is citizens' issue, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding city-related issues that are not on the agenda. Anyone wishes to speak, come forward. Seeing none, next would be administrative staff reports. Tonight we have none.
None tonight, sir. Thank you.
Mayor and council comments. Don't have any that I can think of tonight, except that one of these days winter is going to end, and we are going to have kids in the streets and on the sidewalks. You know, I've said this on several occasions, and I'll say it again. If you have kids, if you see kids, encourage them to use the rapid flashing beacons. Push the button. I came across driving down the street the other day, and a student came out of a school, didn't even look, did not even raise her head across the street. And of course, people going slow enough that they were able to stop. But for some reason, kids, I guess it's not cool to push the button and get the lights flashing. But encourage them, because that's a huge public safety item, and we need to protect those kids, because a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't take steps to protect themselves. So please encourage the use of those beacons, and encourage drivers to keep their eyes open for the kids that aren't paying attention. So, council comments. Jerry.
Kudos to Rob Paulus. I meant to tell you this earlier when you were talking about the signal lights and synchronizing. Only a couple of times can I recall leaving my house and coming to City Hall and getting a green light on all 5 lights on Spokane Street
And you
on
just
the
jinxed
way.
yourself.
I got here way early, yes, but thank you. That is huge. That is a huge thing. So whatever magic you're able to do on that in the future, I'm sure will be appreciated by all.
Shelley, real point of clarification. So we'll have a regular, the first meeting in June will be at the regular scheduled time.
Yes.
And then the second meeting will be changed, as we discussed at the last meeting. That will be on June 15th. So just so everyone's aware,
And
the
that's a Thursday.
second meeting in June will be on Thursday, June 15th.
And I believe we're gonna try to start it at 5:30 is.
Yes.
So we have a scheduled public hearing that will run fairly long, and so we're gonna try to start it at 5:30.
Okay. With that, we do not need to enter into an executive tonight.
We do not.
We're not going to purchase any more property.
We're not.
Amen.
Dave did it all, rolled it out.
No.
3 slides per purchase.
Sit down. So with that, the next motion is?
Adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.